So this segment, we're going to be discussing this clip from Nigel Farage and Ben Habib, where they discuss Brexit not really working and, Brexiteers attacking other Brexiteers. It's just stuff you love to see during the week, really. So we're going to just kind of watch and react to this clip and try and dispel the myths that they push.
So the British economy is flatlining. We have business confidence at the lowest levels I've known for literally for decades, the beginning of a brain drain, and a lot of think tanks suggesting that we're losing several percentage points of our GDP every year as a direct result of Brexit.
Well, it's completely wrong.
And that was what brought this.
Well, the only one who's completely wrong here is you, mate, because business confidence is low. They don't know what our trading arrangements, they don't like our trading arrangements with the EU now. There are lots of trade barriers in the way that causes a lot of problems. They might be willing to invest more in Northern Ireland, but the problem is the DUP and the DUP and the uncertainty they are causing. So we have seen business confidence go down tremendously with reduced foreign direct investment, along with companies, with the tax rises, but more importantly, companies struggling to expand and keep what they have in the UK. A lot of these small medium enterprises, they exported to the EU. Now they're struggling to do that. We discussed that with Cheshire Cheeseman. There was the bike guy who made sort of mounts for bikes, so you can hang them up on the wall mounted bikes. He's struggling, and there are so many other examples of people who are struggling, hauliers that are struggling for it. And so business confidence is low. Brain drain, we've seen that with the Horizon program, with lots of scientists, the ones that won the ECHR grants, not ECHR, European Research Grants. They have left the country. Some of them have gone to the United States, some of them have gone to the EU, for example, and we're going to see more and more of that keep happening. So a brain drain has happened, alongside other kind of skilled labour force workers, I think, have gone. And GDP lowering, well, when you put up trade barriers, that's what happens. GDP is going to go down. And we have seen that, especially when you do that with your largest trading partner. So we go to what Ben Habib's nonsense answer is.
The summit together at Ditchley.
But it's completely wrong. They're conflating issues and they're attributing to Brexit failed Conservative Party policy for 13 years. The whole point about Brexit was to create an independent, nimble, trading nation that is the UK, putting British national interests first and unhooking ourselves from the EU. What we've got is a highly bureaucratic, highly regulated, highly taxed, interfering state that's bigger than ever.
He's not, he's not wrong about the bureaucratic nature of what's going on here, but that's to do with trade. And if we look at, the leading export markets for goods in the United Kingdom, you've got the United States, which obviously we don't have a deal with. But if you look at the rest of the 10, right, you've got Germany, EU member, Netherlands, EU member, Ireland, EU member, France, EU member, China, not an EU member, Belgium, EU member, Switzerland, they're a member of EFTA, which gives them single market access, Italy, EU member, Spain, EU member, Hong Kong, not an EU member, and then you've got Canada and Japan. But when you look at it, you can see a lot of significant amounts of exports of ours go to Germany, Ireland, all EU member states, and that's not happening. So you can be this independent trading nation that does trade all over the world with lots of different nations. But when you cut yourself off from your largest trading partner, it doesn't work. And sure, you can increase trade to say, you can increase your exports to Bangladesh by, say, 0.5 percentage point. But when you cut off multiple percentage points to Germany or France or Greece, for example, you just make things way worse. So these are nonsense. And they go on to talk about some lockdown and the cost of that kind of stuff, amongst other things. AstraZeneca, higher taxes. So we're going to skip through all of that stuff. It's not the focus of the nature of this video, but this is some more good stuff here from the two of them.
I was doing it for getting on for 3 decades.
He's talking about his kind of Brexit, really, about his dislike of the EU, etc.
Our problem is there is a general sense of disappointment in the country about Brexit. How can it be turned around?
But the issue here, Nigel, is not that Brexit has failed. It's that they've failed to deliver Brexit.
So that's nonsense. And we cut to Rishi Sunak, who's a Brexiteer. He says this.
I was proud to vote for Brexit, and now as Prime Minister I'm keen to make sure that we deliver the benefits of it. Now, we've already done that when we've taken control of our migration system, for example. We're rolling out free ports across the country, which are creating jobs and investment.
I mean, a lot of that is nonsense, but he's saying he's a Brexiteer as well, and he's saying he basically got Brexit done and they're trying to make it a success of it. So Ben Habib, a Brexiteer, is basically arguing with Rishi Sunak, a Brexiteer. And we've seen that over the summit where you've got Nigel Farage. I think Ben Habib were very angry over this summit, along with John Redwood. The summit led by Michael Gove a Brexiter. So it makes no sense. These people are actually attacking each other because none of them have a plan. The only difference is the ones in government have to figure out what they can actually do within the bounds of reality, unless you're Liz Truss. Whilst this lot can, the backseat drivers, they say, oh, I would have done things better. It's like, oh, cool, do it then. Nigel Farage ran as an MP, failed. Ben Habib, I had no idea what Ben Habib does apart from these court cases right now.
As you know, myself and a number of other unionists brought a case against the government last week, which was adjudicated last week by the Supreme Court over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Why did we bring that case? Because the Northern Ireland Protocol basically condemned Northern Ireland to being in the EU single market for goods. We knew that that was not the United Kingdom leaving as one United Kingdom. That's what Boris Johnson promised. He promised the country would leave the EU as one United Kingdom. When we voted on that bit of paper, it said, do you wish the United Kingdom to leave the EU? Not.
And again, this is how you define. How do you define what the EU is? Is the EU is it we've left the EU, but Northern Ireland is still part of the EU single market for goods? So that's one of the key problems Brexiters ran into, because let's not forget Daniel Hannan said only a madman would leave the single market. Oh no, it's Owen Paterson who said only a madman would leave the single market. Yeah, Daniel Hannan saying absolutely no one is talking about leaving the single market, and yet you have Ben Habib, Brexiter, arguing essentially against those two from back then, saying Northern Ireland is part of the EU single market for goods, therefore Brexit has not happened. And so all of the problems associated with Brexit cannot be attributed to Brexit, because Brexit's not happened. All of the problems that are happening are as a result of the government. Can you guys see the disconnect here? Even though Brexit has happened, the United Kingdom has left the EU. We are no longer an EU member. It's just because he's trying to define it in a tricky way. He's trying to get away with all the damage Brexit has done, but it's just, really just bottom tier spin, in my opinion.
Great Britain. And the Northern Ireland Protocol is not just important to Northern Ireland, it's very important to British citizens in Great Britain.
It's not that important to people in Great Britain. I don't think people in Great Britain are that concerned about it. They are concerned about the impact it's doing to Stormont, based on some of the polls we covered from a few weeks ago. But the people in Northern Ireland are more concerned with the NHS and Stormont being closed rather than the Northern Ireland Protocol. So his arguments don't make any sense.
This was one of the biggest lies of all. Ben, final thought on all of this. There are many that will say, given what's happening in Ukraine right at the moment, given worries over Taiwan, that actually what was discussed at Ditchley makes sense. That maybe we should have closer military cooperation with the EU. That's an argument we're hearing more of.
The one thing that should be self-evident to anyone out of Ukraine is that we must never be allied to the EU over foreign policy. The EU tried to undermine our position on Iraq.
Our illegal invasion of Iraq. I don't know, Ben. Undermining an illegal invasion of a country. I don't know. I'd say that's probably a good thing, Ben, that they did that. I'll be honest.
Tried to undermine sanctions on Iran. It takes.
Iran, the Iran nuclear deal that we had, that we signed up to, along with the EU, I think it was, and also the USA, the one that the USA unilaterally pulled out of. I don't know, Ben. Them undermining a country just unilaterally pulling out of an agreement. Say that you're probably all right on that one as well.
It's a friendly attitude to China when China needs to be challenged. It was.
You got Rishi Sunak talking about how we've got a new relationship with China. A new, better relationship, a more dynamic one. All those kind of buzzwords. So if you're arguing that the EU shouldn't cozy up to China, surely you should be more angry at Rishi Sunak here.
Sidling up to Ukraine, poking the bear, if you like, for years.
So you're saying that it's the fault of the EU that Russia invaded Ukraine by Ukraine wanting to be an EU member and the EU giving candidacy status to Ukraine. These are super. I guess horseshoe theory is real. It's another example of it, because that's what you have. Certain left wingers argue about NATO, but to argue because the EU wanted. Because Ukraine wanted EU status to be a member of the EU, that somehow provoked Russia makes no sense. Surely Ukraine, this is what I mean, you want England to be sovereign and all of this nonsense, right? But then you can't have the same for Ukraine because that would annoy Russia. Makes no sense.
And when it came to the fight, actually, Germany had hooked itself on an addiction of Russian fuel.
You couldn't invent it.
And I don't know if viewers know this, but Germany has bought 50 billion euros worth of Russian fuel since sanctions began. Germany is financing the Russian war effort. Thank goodness.
So we're better off, Ben,
much better off out.
mismanaging our own country as it is.
I mean, we're very good at mismanaging. But what we've got to do, Nigel, is really Brexit properly. Take back control of our laws, our borders, our cash, our fish, get Northern Ireland back into the United Kingdom, and then chart...
Northern Ireland never left the United Kingdom. That's a big problem. Was there a border poll? Did they vote to unify with Ireland? I must have missed that one. You know, a lot of the answers like with the fish thing, like who are you going to sell the fish to, Chief? Who are you going to sell the fish to? You know, we import the fish that we like to eat, and we export the fish we don't like to eat. It's just nonsense argument after nonsense argument. It's a bit about the Germany buying fuel from, you know, Russia. You know, I think they're buying it via Kazakhstan or one of the other countries. That's a fair point about Germany kind of trying to bypass the sanctions. That's fine. If you want to make that argument. The problem is we've let a lot of the Russian oligarchs get away with the sanctions. We let Russian money also permeate within the UK, and Germany's failure to, you know, kind of really comply with the sanctions. How do you blame the EU for that? You can argue it's the EU's fault for, you know, not making stricter sanctions here, but you know, the problem with Germany is their long-term issue was their reliance on Russia for fuel. Maybe the EU could have done more, but if the EU put pressure on Germany to kind of get rid of their reliance on Russian fuel, would you not have argued that's the EU kind of impeding on Germany's sovereignty? Like, you can't win with these guys. It's either sovereignty and you know, the glory of sovereignty, or it's, you know, it's just something else, and they just don't make any sense, honestly. Like Ben Habib's arguments in this video, like, or just ridiculous. Like Nigel Farage, you can see, yeah, he's got jokes. You can kind of see why some people like him, especially as the host of the show, where he gives the other person a lot more leeway. But this was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there was no real pushback here, apart from his joke at the end about saying we're great at mismanaging our own stuff. But the point being is, they're trying to create the image that it's not the fault of Brexit because Brexit never really happened, which is just nonsense. Brexit did happen. We don't have any MEPs. We don't have a say at the table when decisions are made, when the EU makes decisions. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, honestly. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I hope Brexiteers get better spin merchants than Ben Habib, because the guy is lacking. He is lacking big time. And I'll catch you in the next one.